6:30. Good morning to you. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Yeah. Shall we take a look at today's newspapers then? Boris is back. The Daily Mail leads with their brand new columnist. He wasn't away from the limelight for long, was he?
No, the Times have a great picture of Martin Amis. He passed away in May. Has been included in the King's birthday honours.
Surging mortgage rates are a Tory time bomb. That's according to the Guardian's front page.
The Telegraph have a great picture of Joe Root. This one, the England cricketer scored a crucial century yesterday on the first day of the Ashes.
And then there is the Daily Star, which is talking about skinny dipping. But I think we might get onto that a bit later.
Oh, I hope so. Let's talk to the assistant editor of The Spectator, Cindy Yu, and writer and podcaster Lewis Oakley. Good to see you both.
Good morning, good morning.
Let's talk Boris and his Daily Mail column, should we?
Yes, so Daily Mail started trailing this on Thursday night, mystery columnist, and by about yesterday lunchtime we knew who it was. About yesterday evening the column dropped and it was about weight loss drugs.
How do you riddle that? I mean, what on earth has been going on? You can't imagine that when the Daily Mail signed him, when he was very keen to be their next great star columnist, that he was just going to talk about weight loss.
I know, I don't think the whole world is talking about Boris's cheddar and chorizo habit, but I think he will be saving some good stuff for later on. I'm sure he will be using this as a platform to needle Rishi Sunak at every single turn.
But you would have expected day one to be the explosive one, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would have done. I wonder how last minute this was. I really do wonder how last minute this was. I mean, Boris Johnson only resigned as an MP a week ago. So someone was saying to me their theory is that Boris perhaps has been stringing papers along since he resigned as Prime Minister. Obviously, you know, as a newspaper editor, you would love to have Boris Johnson write for you. After his resignation, things were actually set in motion, and perhaps he didn't really decide to do it until maybe the day of the announcement. So then it's essay crisis time for Boris Johnson. Bash out this column. But I would say, though, the column is a bit more political than it seems at first sight. I mean, it starts off by talking about Julius Caesar, who says that he wants to be surrounded by men who are well-fed, because otherwise young Cassius has a lean and hungry look. And he's that, you know, it doesn't take much reading to understand that that's referencing Rishi Sunak.
But it's harmless politically.
It's harmless, yes.
It is. And I wonder whether he hadn't written a very explosive first column, but when the Daily Mail maybe, and when he was reminded that he hadn't actually asked the Appointments Committee permission for this column, that maybe they decided to play safe and quickly write something else.
Possibly, but the point about the Appointments Committee is that they have no teeth. You know, all they could do is say to Boris Johnson, you've broken the rules, and there are 3 different things ongoing at the moment that says Boris Johnson has broken the rules, so I don't think he really...
I think this is really on brand for Boris, though, isn't it? Because we all thought it was, oh God, what's he going to say? And it's weight loss, but then that's part of Boris's thing, right? Is we're all confused again. So I think it's really on brand for him, actually.
It's interesting because Jennifer's been in touch. Hi, Jennifer. She says, today returns the old Boris, much preferred to a Prime Minister Boris. Interesting. I know a lot of our correspondents will disagree with you there and say they like the PM Boris, but it's a fair point, Jennifer.
I mean, it's a good read.
Yes, it's a good read.
Clearly written by him because it's very funny in places, and he talks about it's the human Boris. He talks about how he loved to get up at midnight and go down to the kitchen and raid the fridge.
Half a bottle of wine at the midnight raid. Oh my God!
No, I'm a midnight feaster. I totally sympathise with that. Yeah, maybe that's why I struggle with my weight as well. Yeah. I love getting up in the middle of the night and going down.
I would raid, but I wouldn't have half a bottle of wine by myself.
No, I might not have half a bottle of wine, but it would get you back to sleep, wouldn't it?
It would.
And he talks a lot about this new wonder drug, they call it Ozempic, and it's semaglutide, the actual name of the drug, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's at the moment you can only get it privately, and it costs a bomb. Actually, I think if you've got a certain type of diabetes too.
Type 2, yeah.
Well, the government is saying
that you can persuade your GP to get to write it for you.
But this is the same drug that the government a few weeks ago was saying that they're going to roll out this trial for a certain few.
It works for some people. I mean, I've known people who take it and say that the only reason it works is because it makes you feel sick all the time. But other people don't say that, and then also it just doesn't seem to work properly for some people. I think.
Well, we're all different.
But it may help if it does help with the sort of obesity crisis, which is the point that Boris makes, then let's try it.
Let's talk about inflation crisis. Should we, in the Telegraph, Lewis, looking at Mark Carney, former...
Mark Carney, remember him?
Yeah.
Well, he's back and he's got opinions. So, I mean, in this piece, he's basically blaming everything that's happened on Brexit. So he's kind of saying, you know, he warned the public about the damage to the economy, and he feels that he's been vindicated. He does actually say in this piece that he's not saying "I told you so," but clearly he is. I think it's interesting, though. I mean, Jacob Rees-Mogg has kind of come back and said this is nonsense, and you know, you were all about dodgy figures, you weren't very good at your job.
He's better than the current one.
Well, jury's out. But what I will say is, I think what I read in this as well is he's still very committed to net zero, and I think that really just shows that kind of tribal nature. He does kind of say, look, it's going to take some time to wean off fossil fuels, but only invest in it if we really have to. And it's, you know, where there are certain people where it's like, you're just very tribal. It's Brexit's to blame. The green policy is good. And the truth is, it's all a bit of everything, the mess we're in. Yes, Brexit is in part to blame. Yes, some of the green policy stuff is in part to blame. There's a bit of war. And also, we locked down the country. That, you know, you can't just blame it on one thing and say, well, I told you so back in 2016.
Well, especially when you look at the fact that, I mean, our economy is, well, it's pretty flat, but it is technically growing at the moment, 0.2% in April, I think it was, looking at the GDP figures, and yet countries like Germany are in recession.
Well, exactly. We're not doing terrible, although, I mean, speak to the average person on the street. I don't think they'll be impressed with the little bit of the graph we're going up on.
Compared to a lot of other countries, we're doing better than
So
them.
doing all right, yeah.
I'm liking that upbeat this morning. Yeah.
God, always
Carney, you can go away.
Always upbeat. On to the Times, Cindy.
Yeah, and more on Boris Johnson.
More on Boris Johnson.
On his notebooks, the notebooks that he kept whilst he was Prime Minister.
Yes, and this is the internal government argument at the moment, or rather the Cabinet Office. Do you remember they're in the middle of suing the COVID inquiry over the COVID inquiry's request for these notebooks and WhatsApps, and the Cabinet Office has now come out to say the reason we're not giving them over is because they're national security concerns. Boris jotted down some classified information that he probably shouldn't have jotted down, and now they're refusing also to give the notebooks back to Boris Johnson as well. So
I found it interesting.
Right.
He obviously left Downing Street, leaving them behind. You'd think he'd do a Donald Trump and take them back and hide them in a shower somewhere.
I think he did. I think he took the journals and then he gave them to
then he
Cabinet
had to give
Office
them-
again.
Yes,
yeah. So I think he gave them to Cabinet Office a couple of weeks ago. But his allies are saying that the Cabinet Office has had these for months. But I've spoken to people in the Cabinet Office who say, no. He only gave them to us moments before his statement saying that he's given them over.
Yeah.
So classic Boris Johnson.
But I mean, it's, you know, whereas there will be conspiracy theorists saying, oh, we need to see what's in these books. Actually, when it comes to national security, I mean, all these things have to be vetted anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly, and the point is the COVID inquiry is not vetted. You know, Baroness Hallett, you know, she's a respected judge, but she's not a security vetted civil servant or minister. So the chances of a leak, not from her necessarily, but from the wider COVID inquiry, you know, they're not negligible.
No.
So I think it's fair for there to be concern over that, and that's why so much of it is redacted.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
Lewis, the grotty, awful rate of mortgages. The UK mortgage rip-off. Is it a rip-off? How come we are suffering so badly with mortgage rates being hiked?
Well,
and the banks appear to be doing quite well.
The banks are doing incredibly well. They've pocketed 4.8 billion by hiking home loans faster than savings. So, you know, they're all named and shamed in this. You've got HSBC, NatWest, Lloyds. You know, I mean, Martin Lewis has called for action on this. But yeah, I mean, it's a very real thing that people are feeling out there. And, you know, I'm not even on the property ladder yet. I'm just looking at the property ladder, just hoping that one day maybe I can reach it. But for, you know, and I've got friends that are on it, and their mortgages have gone up, especially if they were only on those 2-year fixed terms. And it is a real worry for people because they're being asked to, you know, from like sort of £300 to £500 more a month, and they don't have it. And then we get onto that argument of, well, wages need to rise, and then, well, that carries on inflation. So it's this dark figure. But I think that the main thing here is about the banks just not passing on this savings, right? It's, you know, and I just think this, I do love our country, but I do think there's just too much greed going on at the moment. There's just too much greed, and it's not fair for people.
I suppose there is, I'm desperately trying to think of a counter-argument for balance. But, I mean, banks, obviously, what banks have to do is have a lot of resilience. And the concern is if banks don't have enough money in their own pot, then it's what happened in 2008, subprime mortgage market crashing and all the rest of it, is banks didn't have the resilience, the funds, the resources to keep going, which is why we saw a lot of them collapse. So I guess there's an argument to say, well, they've got to make money while they can, because it will help us all out in the long term. I know I'm trying.
Well, I mean, another counter argument is that after all, these are private businesses. You know, why not? Why not make a profit? So what? I mean, the point about the base rate, interest rate, is that when the Bank of England raises the base rate, banks have to raise their interest rates too, but not necessarily on savers. So it's not an automatic mechanism. And now that Harriet Baldwin, this Tory MP, has raised awareness, I would think that the government would look into it a bit more. But before then, you know, if you're a private business, I mean, I don't know, the profit incentive is fundamental to a lot of things that we do.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is.
Yeah, but sometimes the profits at the top seem out of order, given that the rest of us are suffering. I mean, you could say the same about the water companies or the energy companies too as well. I mean, our bills are going up. We're all now going to probably face hosepipe bans almost straight away. We're not going to be able to use water. In fact, it's going to become a scarcity. But the people at the top of the water industry are making a fortune.
Yeah, a fortune.
It's true.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the Mirror. Should we in the King's birthday honours list?
Yes, and the Mirror, I mean, this is exactly my take on it, which is just that, take note, Boris, these are honours for people who actually deserve them. And this obviously comes a week after Boris's own resignation honours for his, you know, friends. He tried to get his family on there, but it failed. But the King's birthday honours are for people who set up charities, you know, charities to look after victims of people who had family members who were murdered, or people who were abused, bullied as children, and now trying to inspire other kids to not be bullied. You know, these are real heroes, you know, everyday heroes. And I think
I like that phrase, actually, everyday heroes.
Yeah.
Because that is what an honours list should be about.
And they're normal people, you know. We have this this old lady here who Joan Willett is 106, raised more than £60,000 for the British Heart Foundation by trekking up a hill outside her Hastings care home.
She's 106.
Yeah, 4 times a day during COVID, so she would have been over 100 at that point.
So what's she getting for that?
She's getting a BEM.
See, I would have given her more than a BEM for that 106. I'd have given her damehood.
Yeah.
And
so she was
frankly.
doing that at the same time Captain Tom was doing his.
And you know, she deserves that honour much more than some of these young advisors that Boris Johnson has given gongs to.
Yeah.
Well, life peerages to. So, you know, I think that is a broken part of our political system where we don't specify that resignation honours have to be for public service of some sort. Just working for the Prime Minister isn't public service.
No.
Well, you were arguing that maybe it is.
Well, no. Well, sort of. No.
Say that back yourself.
No, I wasn't arguing that it is. What I was saying is in terms of political honours, you get a lot of people who then get honours for political service,
Yes.
which effectively just means working in the House of Commons. And a lot of these people work very hard. It's not the same. It is not the same as this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that's how it should be. I'm just saying that it is a different. It's like an acknowledged differential.
But even on political contribution, there's a range, right?
Yeah.
There's a spectrum. There are people who do a lot in the House of Commons, politicians who deserve to be recognised, and then there are 26-year-old advisors who are, you know, it's quite unclear why they're on the list.
Yeah. Is that how old one of them was?
For Boris Johnson's resignation on
Getting a peerage?
Yeah. Life peerage. Youngest ever.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
It is a bit.
I wish I'd have worked for it.
Well, no, but I tell you what.
That's how you can get on a housing ladder.
I tell you what annoys me about that actually is that, and I've always sort of said, I've not been one of these people who said, the House of Lords should be abolished, because I sort of think it's important to have a second chamber, and I don't think it should be a voted second chamber. I think it should be a chamber of older, experienced
wisdom
people,
and experience.
The wisdom, who can then look at what the House of Commons is doing and look at it and revise it and send it back. And what's a 26-year-old going to add to that?
No,
Just
that's the thing,
respect, but what do they
it's a good idea, the House of Lords, in principle, but just in practice and the way it's being done, it just doesn't really work. There's just not really a point to it, I don't think.
I know some people in the House of Lords who work damn hard. They really do. That, you know, they have certain projects or certain obsessions actually, and they work so hard at those things, and they do make a real difference. But I quite agree. At 26, you don't have that breadth of experience. That's what the House of Lords is for, I think. Although
It's
you
a
do have a young
revising
take on
chamber.
things, you know.
Yeah,
Maybe it's nice to have a.
Yeah, but there's a young take. I mean, you can have a young take at 40,
Yeah,
can't you? And also have a little life experience
Yes.
behind you. You've not just come out of university.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if you've got a thought on that. Let us know, gbviews@gbnews.com. Now, Lewis, bit of skinny dipping in the Star.
Yes, Free Willy. So, naturists are urging us all to strip off this weekend because it's going to be hot. And I think you were talking about this earlier, but naked bathing boosts your mental health and positivity. So, there are expected to be thousands of people stripping off this weekend in Dorset, Sussex, and Birmingham. Strangely, of all places, that's the one that perplexes me the most.
Yes.
Because there's no.
Is there an open air Lido there?
Yeah, I'm
Must
not
be
sure
something.
what there is there. I mean, if it's your thing, I think go for it. I have gone skinny dipping before, but it was in Gran Canaria. I would not go skinny dipping in Birmingham.
No.
It might be a very exclusive spot in Birmingham. We don't know.
No,
I don't have a problem with it, but I do. This is my thing now. Everyone has a camera, so you
yes,
just don't want to be
yes.
snapped and then it's there forever. It's like I wouldn't mind, but it's people snapping and
Yeah, you
taking
need to do it.
photos.
Yes, you need to do it in private.
Yeah.
I would suggest. So, you know, with a group of like-minded, you don't want to just burst into your local swimming pool, with your cosy off.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
police
you-
caution.
I don't think. Yes, I don't think they'd like you doing that.
No,
Maybe
I'll tell
go to
you-
a naturist beach. Find out your
Yeah.
nearest naturist beach.
Yeah, if you're into that sort of thing. I tell you what, though. I know it's a serious note, but I mean, it might be some of these sort of reservoirs, lakes, ponds, or things in Birmingham. Be careful. Cold water shock is a killer.
Yes,
And
it
we
is.
get it every year, don't we? And often young people diving into the water and all the rest of it. And
Yeah, there's a
people
real
not letting
danger in that,
So
isn't there?
just be careful. You've got to respect the water.
Skinny dipping with clothes or not.
And I would say don't forget extra sun cream if you're not going to have anything on.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
that's
true as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, there's a thought for you. If you're planning on doing a bit of that, let us know. No pictures. Thank you. gbviews@gbnews.com.